Hello and welcome back to Try Your Hand. I'm Brenda and today we're going to be making a print block. Let's get started. So for the supplies, you will have this speedball kit. It comes with a linoleum block, some tracing paper, a handle, two cutting nibs. One's more of a square and the other one's like a V shape. You will also have a ink block and an extra linoleum block. Something else that you'll need that we don't have in the kit for you is a pencil, and something that's optional is like another color ink pad than what you got. Along with all of that, you will also have a couple of templates that you can choose from, or you can draw your own. So if you're using one of the templates that I have given you, what you will do is take the tracing paper and trace out the template. You want to have it the template be quite dark, so you will want to trace with a pencil. Again, you want to press pretty hard. That way you can transfer the pencil marks onto the linoleum block pretty quickly. So as you can see, I did rub it onto the block and it did work, but I did trace it over with pencil again just so that you could see it. And then we can get started on carving. So if you don't want to use any of the templates that I have, you can pretty much just draw right onto the tracing paper, or of course you can draw it on a regular piece of paper and then transfer it onto the tracing paper. Really, it doesn't matter what you do, just as long as the picture eventually gets on the tracing paper so you can transfer it onto the linoleum block. So once you have your nib onto your cutting handle, you will want to start carving. In order to carve, you want to carve out all the areas that you don't want in ink. So in this case, you can see that I'm starting to carve out these lines. That means that those lines will not be inked up. So it will sort of look like that flower picture to the left. So that means that you kind of have to decide what it is that you want to be inked up and what you don't want inked. So when you're carving, what you want to do is kind of ease your cutting tool into the linoleum block, and then when you're done, you kind of want to ease it back up again. Essentially what you're doing is you're putting a little bit of pressure, like slow pressure, and then keeping that steady pressure as you cut in that particular section, and when you decide that you're done, you kind of ease up on that pressure, and it brings up a nice little like slip of the linoleum block. With this cutting tool, it is easier to do straight lines. So if you are doing a lot of curved lines, just make sure that you're doing shorter strokes so that you do eventually get that curved line. I would say take that small linoleum block and practice with that first before you start using your big one, if that's what you want to do. You can also use the back side of a linoleum block as well. So the two different nib types do slightly different things. So the V-shaped one is really good for like narrow spaces. So for example, if I just want to keep on doing just these lines, the V-shaped cutting tool is the best thing for the job because it can do very narrow lines. The square nib, what that does is it cuts out like really big chunks. So if there's a whole area that you don't want to be printing, take that square nib and you're able to like take out a lot of that extra linoleum that you don't want pretty quickly. Unlike with the V-shaped one, which would take a long time, and it would be more likely that it would leave a lot of lines that can transfer onto your paper once you start to ink up your block. Okay, so another thing that you can do while cutting is making different textures. So for example, if you see that flower at the lower side there, I started making little cross hatches with my little V-shaped cutting tool to make a little bit of texture on the inside of that flower. In order to do that, what I did is I just pressed less hard than I did in other areas to make that cross hatching. So when you've decided that you're done carving your block, everything is as you want it to be, you can then start to ink up your block. So because we have this little tiny ink pad, what I did was I just kind of stamped the ink pad onto my block until I got the coverage that I wanted. Also, when you do the printing, the easiest way to do it is to just put the piece of paper down and then put the block on top of it. If you do it with the piece of paper on top of the block, you'll have to have like something heavy that can go on top and press it down. Otherwise, like if you do what I did here, which is just like rubbing it, it doesn't really transfer the way you want it to. With the piece of paper down and then the block on top, essentially the block itself is like the weight almost. So it kind of does what it's supposed to do. I just kind of put a little bit more extra pressure on the sides and it turned out pretty nice. So the first few attempts of doing the prints, I've started noticing little sections that were showing that I didn't really want to show. So that meant that I had to carve in those particular areas a little bit more to get those little pieces out so that they're not inking my page, like marking the page where they're not supposed to. So you can go back and carve out little areas that you feel weren't carved out well enough the first time you did it, and then you can keep on printing until you get the design that you want. Another thing that you can do is also layer your prints. So for example, here I have this small little bee, and I was able to stamp that bee in a different color on top of my previous print. You can also do this with your original big print by using a different color and have it like slightly offset to give it a specific effect. It looks really cool, trust me. Right, and that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed this project, and we hope to see you next time for our project in December. That's going to be like this little winter glass block decoration. We will be showing you what that looks like real soon. All right, I hope you guys have a good November. All right, bye.